Okay guys, we're back with another portion of our Michael Myers build. We're still working on the base. Lots of detail and stuff that need to be done even if you're not overdoing it. As you remember in the last episode, we painted the steps, we painted the base and everything. We stained the top also, and now it's time to add some more weathering, and to do most of the weathering we broke out our pastels. That makes things a lot easier. It's really cool to work with. It's nice. And what we did basically is using dedicated brush. I always keep a dedicated brush for pastels, okay? Certain things always get the dedicated brush so you don't get any overflow from something else. Oil, same difference. But anyway, we took a mix of brown and black, and we made a powdery mess, and we took it and we made wear marks all over and dulled down the treads of our porch. Make it look like it's the wear marks are specifically in the middle where we would get the most wear. We then went along the railings. I decided to keep the railings all white, just from what I've seen driving around, some brief internet searches and stuff like that. I just weathered the hell out of it to give it the look. So we weathered it, put some wear marks, a little bit of mold going, mold moss look type thing. Very dirty. Again, make it look used and worn out a little bit. Not decrepit and haunted, but just used and just the way it is. Front of the houses of people's houses just get worn. Then we did the lower base here to get this. Here's what we did. We painted first. Started by doing the grass area, painted that brown. Okay, basically because I was going to do an overlay on top of it of a type of flocking type scenario, and where I didn't get good coverage, the brown would show through and look like dirt. That was the goal. So painted it brown. The sidewalk got gray. I think I used this regular gray. This is a lighter gray, charcoal gray, than another brand's charcoal gray, which is a lot darker. I use that for the bottoms of chassis and cars and stuff. But this is a nice light gray. It worked out perfect, and I painted the sidewalk gray. After that was done, I used, let's see if we can find it. I don't have it here, but I use Createx stains. It's a brownish stain, and I washed the entire thing, let it dry for a while, and then blotted and took it off. And then once that was dry, I went again with the Createx and left it heavy in certain areas, just to add that natural staining and wear that you see on sidewalks. I didn't want it to be uniform, so that's how we get that look there. As you can see, so you can see we got that staining look there. Okay. Then went in, we did the Halloween in chalk. The chalk right there itself has been painted. I see some people paint that colorful like candy, not matching the chalk, but I believe that's supposed to be a piece of chalk. At least that's what I went with. And we got some candies over here that we painted. Yay, candy. Spilled all over the ground. Then, moving to this, here's what we did for this. Basically, around, it's kind of hard to see, it's very subtle, but around the edges of the sidewalk here, you can see some different colorations. Okay, around the edge of the sidewalk I put a patch here. What I did was I put, using scenic Woodland Scenics material, I put some dirt there. Usually, at least in my experience, my yard, the edges of my sidewalks or anything are usually dead from the salts or the non-salt chemicals that I use to keep the ice off my my walk in the wintertime. It usually kills the grass. Plus, people will walk on it and it usually kills it. So that's why I put the dirt there. Then I went out and I've got, again, Woodland Scenes blend turf. Okay, this is very fine stuff. The stuff I had in my collection already was very coarse. It didn't work. But this stuff, okay, it's got very autumn-like colors in it because grass is going into hibernation and stuff like that. So that was perfect. Glued the rest of the base, powdered it on, and voila, we got ourselves a grass-like scene. And you'll see here, we got a hole here, a hole here. That's because we went out and bought some trees, okay? Diorama Accessories trees. We trim them down like such, and that's going to go in here, okay? It'll go there, and it'll act like a shrub in front of our house, which I think would be pretty cool. Okay. Then overall, we did some pastel works and just dirtied up the rest of the facade, like I had said, and we are progressing. Again, we have to plant our trees, and we have to do the leaves. The leaves, haha, the leaves. The leaves I'm pretty stoked about. I stole this idea from someone, Kenny Conklin over at Sci-Fi Annecy, and that is he went out and he had bought one of these. Okay, it's a press. If you look underneath, let me scroll in, it's got the face of a leaf. So you put a piece of paper in there, you stomp it, and it prints out a little leaf. Now in our case, it's fall. The base has had leaves all over it, as you can see on the steps and everything still. We are going to take leaves, and we are going to stomp them. Let's see if I can, give me a second there. Take real leaves, stomp them. Okay. Focus. Come on. And there we go. We got a leaf. So then we're going to take our leaves and we're going to litter them on our porch and our ground and make them look like it's autumn. They're a perfect scale, I think. We're going to use the natural colors of the leaves themselves, I found. The only difference is that I'm going to take these and I'm going to shellac them first. This way they hold their colors and they're not just going to deteriorate on my base. As you can see here, I picked out a couple others from the neighborhood that have multiple colors in them. I think the purples and the greens are going to look really nice. I haven't found any orange leaves yet, but I hope to find them soon, and then I can add those hopefully in short order. But for now, this will work, and it'll add the colors and naturalist and all that stuff. But like I said, we're going to shellac these first and then apply them all over the base. Alright. Be right back. Okay, so we've been doing a lot of talking about our base for our Michael Myers build. We really haven't seen much of Michael himself. Let me bring you up to speed on that. He's been slow going because I've been focusing mostly on the base, trying to get the details on that right. But here's where we are. Put them together, and we did a lot of seam filling and sanding. It's really, this kit has a lot of work to be done to it. But we got him together, and primed him, and then we want to create his jumpsuit here. And what we used for that is custom mix using craft acrylics. We used uniform blue and black, and we just went to town mixing it until we got the right mix that we liked. Then sprayed the whole thing over and let it dry. After it was dry, I took a little bit of Magnolia White, right? Magnolia White, just a drop or two, and I added that to the leftover mix that I had. From there, I dry brushed all the high spots on the jumpsuit, all the seam work, the knees, went around the knees, did the knees, in the back we did the buttocks a little bit, and it was all very subtle, especially around the cuffs of the wrist and the ankles, using that just a RCH tad lighter blue. After that all dried, we then went back to the pastels because it didn't give me the differences that I was hoping for, but it was there. It was subtle, and I was afraid to do a little bit more white and do it again and ruin it. So I decided the subtleness was enough, and I was going to go with something different to complement it. And what I did for that is I went back to my pastels, okay, and in my pastels there's a blue, okay, and basically all I did is I took my pastel brush that I have, put blue on it, and I went over again all the high spots and added the blue to it to lighten it up, okay, and the seam works and everything that I did earlier, did the same thing again, and I think it added some tones and definitions that I'm happy with. It's not over the top, but I think it's enough to show some differences and everything like that, so I think it's pretty cool. So that's going to be sealed in. I got to seal that in with some gloss for now. His shoes were done in the dark charcoal color, and then his soles were done a tad darker, so I add a little black to charcoal for the soles, but the boots themselves are charcoal. Again, black would be too stark by itself, so that's why I went with the charcoal. And then I did make his t-shirt black up here, because he did have a black t-shirt, or a dark t-shirt anyway. And then I only put the first coat on his hands for right now. We're going to still work on those. They look like gloves. They're pretty meaty and goofy looking, so we're going to have to work on those, but we'll get there. So here we are, we're doing the shellacking of our leaves, and we're using Mod Podge. We're just putting it over. As you can see, it's white at first, but this will dry clear. We're just doing a whole bunch of these so I can pick and choose with a punch tool. I want to be careful because the veins in the leaves are pretty striking when you put it through the press, and they're going to look goofy with those big seams through them. So I want to have enough of these leaves that I can pick and choose the portions of the leaf I want to use. Especially like this one right here is nice and soft, thin. It's going to work pretty good, I think. But this should seal it in and not let it deteriorate on my base like it does out in your yard. And yes, for those that are curious, this Mod Podge, this is the same kind of material you use when you build a puzzle and you want to save it. You don't want it to fall apart. You put the stuff over it. It fills in the gaps and it glues it all together. So we're going to let that dry for a little bit, then we're going to come back, we'll do the other side. Be right back.